Hey, this is Jonathan Davis at Trybackyard Farming, and today I'm going to show you how to set up some raised beds. If you take a look at these, it's just some beds that I fashioned together from some found materials. They're pretty rustic, and I've just laid them right over the lawn. I'm not going to do any digging or anything. And so the first thing I like to do with raised beds is a form of hugelkulture, and that's when you take kind of like rotten punk wood, as we call it. It's real spongy, it won't burn, and it smells dead and rotten. But if you take this and throw it in the bottom of these beds, it's a really good way to jumpstart them. The wood will continue to break down over a couple of years, and it helps to retain moisture. And so you won't have to water these beds very much. And so I'm going to go through here and add my punk wood, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I've added the wood that was in this wheelbarrow, and as you can see, there's still kind of a lot of room in there. And so I'm going to add way more. Now, one thing about this wood, it doesn't have to be rotten wood. For example, it could be, say, pine or branches, lots of sticks, anything like that. If you use, let's say, pieces of firewood, then it probably won't do much at first, but maybe by next year, that firewood underneath will start to get rotten and it'll start to absorb moisture, and it's a way of self-watering, and even maybe you might even say bottom watering your raised bed. But I need some more punk wood because I have a whole bunch more space to fill up. So let's go get some more. Okay, so I'm at the back part of my property, and as you can see, I have a whole pile of this rotten wood. Sometimes it's firewood that was left out for too long, and sometimes you just find it. But it's really great stuff. It's a secret for gardening that a lot of people don't know about. Now, as you can see, like this thing right here, it's way too big. You see how light it is. So I'm just going to take my maul. You could use a sledgehammer. You could use whatever. I'm just going to break it up a little bit, and you can see it. It breaks up very easily. Pretty easily anyway. Yeah. And so I'm just going to go through and chop some of this up a little bit finer. And then I'm going to make some wheelbarrow loads and fill up the rest of those beds. Kind of satisfying. Okay, so that's pretty good, or I could go get some more. Okay, so I think I'm done. I could put even more in, but I still have room, lots of room for the plant roots and stuff. Now, another nice thing about adding this wood into raised beds is that you're not going to have to use as much soil, which is the next step. So now I'm going to go get some topsoil. I could go to the hardware store and get organic topsoil, but I prefer just to dig it up from areas of my yard where I have some extra. Let's take a look at that. If you don't have any topsoil and you need some in a pinch, one trick is to dig from the bottom of your compost pile. If you look at my articles on composting, you'll see I normally have a cage set up like this to put all the yard debris in, and then once it gets full, I'll shut it down and I'll leave it alone. And then I'll start throwing the new debris into a new cage. But once this stuff turns into compost, I take the cage off and I move it to somewhere else. And I take all that compost out of there, here's some, and I just distribute it into my garden. You could screen that, but that's perfect just the way it is as far as compost goes. But what's left at the bottom of that pile is extremely lush topsoil, and you can certainly dig some out, 3, 4, 5 wheelbarrows full, and it won't hurt anything. And then, just take the new cage and put it over that hole or whatever. Another place to get compost is from the swale sections of your swale hugelkultur mound. Now this is a hugelkultur mound that's overgrown and I'm getting ready to rework it. But it's a mound here, and there's a ditch, a swale through there that catches water, because water's flowing this way on a slope. And so when I dig this swale out, that's going to be all topsoil that flowed from uphill, likely my neighbor's yard. So I have articles about how to capture your topsoil, and this little ditch right here is actually a topsoil generator. It's a topsoil catchment system, and I can dig this thing out a few times a year, and you just get tons of topsoil. Now it might be wet after a rain, or stinky and stuff, so you might want to throw it out on the lawn, because it's what some people might call anaerobic. But throw it out on the lawn, let the sun get to it, and let it kind of chill out for a couple days if need be. Now I have another huge, it's the overgrown thing right here. This is a hugelkultur mound as well, and there is a swale running on the underside of it, also meant to catch water. And when I dig this out, I could get, I don't know, probably 2 dump trucks full of topsoil. So I'm actually generating all the topsoil that I ever need. And until I need it though, I'm keeping it in this ditch. Something to think about. And like I said, I'm on a slope, so all that topsoil is running out of other people's yards, and eventually it would go all the way down to the street and down the storm drains and eventually into the ocean, where it could never be reclaimed again. So it's important to keep not only the water on your property, but to keep the soil. And that's one of the reasons we use raised beds. So just to show you what I'm talking about, here's this tiny little hugelkultur mound and swale. And the swale's full now of topsoil. It needs to be cleaned out so that it can continue to do its work of catching water that's used to feed the wood that's under here, to then feed the plants that you plant on top of it. I don't have anything planted on top of it now. But this thing's not going to catch water if it's full of topsoil. That's okay, because we always need topsoil. And so that's just good stuff right there. And I'm going to dig this out, and I'm going to use this stuff right here as the second level of the raised bed. Let's see if we can get a close-up of it. Yeah, I mean, that's good stuff right there. And then once the swale is completely dug out, I'll put like mulch, leaves, maybe some hay in there, and the whole process will start over. Okay, so just out of this little ditch, so that's fully cleaned out. Now what I could have done if I didn't need the topsoil for something else is take it out of here, throw it right back on the mound to keep the mound higher as it shrinks down over time. Eventually, after a few years, I could add more wood. But this is a little form of raised bed in its own right, because when that water's coming down this way, it's going to hit that. It's never going to wash too much of this topsoil away. And so hugelkultur doesn't look like much right here, but you plant a couple things in here and they grow like crazy. You could even grow a dwarf apple tree right out of this mound. So this is the amount of topsoil that I got. So let's take that down and put it into the raised bed. Okay, so I have a load of the topsoil now. I'm just gonna throw it in here. Probably gonna take, what, 6 or 8 of these maybe? That's okay, because once we get this established, it's gonna be there for a long, long time. And it sure beats buying those heavy bags of soil from the Home Depot or wherever. Alright, so that's one. I think I'm going to use 7 more. So I'll pause the video and come back when it's done. Okay, so that took about, I think, 14 wheelbarrows full of topsoil, but it's looking good. So we got it all filled up. And now the next step is to plant whatever we want to. I have some pretty nice looking melons that we grew from seed that didn't do anything with yet. I'm not sure what that is. It might be a watermelon maybe. We have some tomato, and then we have some other things. I think maybe we'll put some herbs in there. Maybe we'll put the melons on the side, let them grow out into the lawn, maybe stake them up. Maybe attach a trellis to here and let the melons grow straight up. Maybe put some tomatoes in the middle. We have all kinds of options, but anyway, the next step is we're going to plant these plants and then water them really well, and then we're going to mulch the whole thing with compost. And then you're going to have a super raised bed that's going to do well for years and years. Okay, so we have the stuff planted. I might even put more. I might put some beans in here. But now you gotta water the crap out of it. Okay, we're pretty much all set, so the last thing I'm going to do is I got a load of compost from my compost bin, and I'm going to mulch it in. I'm just going to lay it down just like you would mulch. It is mulch, really. It's just better. So I'm mulch around the plants. That's going to act as a weed barrier, and it's going to retain moisture and provide organic material, nutrients, etc. for the plants. If you notice, I don't spend a lot of time when I plant these plants. It's just not necessary. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time when I mulch. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, generally speaking. And most things, they'll do okay. This compost isn't even screened or anything. In a pretty raw form. And that's fine. If you wanted to take a half-inch or 1-inch hardware cloth and put it over the wheelbarrow, you could screen it and only get the fine particles, but I mean, this stuff is great. And it's just old weeds from the garden. That's it. And then I'll maybe lightly water this again. That's it. Thanks a lot for watching, and as always, subscribe to our videos. We plan to make a whole bunch more.